Namaste nerds, this is Navinad, the one who stomps budget pubs. I'm the budget pub stomper, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a deeper dive into Grist the Hunger Tide. I got a pretty good reaction from the interview with Ryan Sparks that I did, who's just a big Golgari fanboy, who I've recently started to tempt into the dark side of the Force, which is cEdh, but we are mostly right now playing $100 budget competitive, and this is the deck that he and I came up with for him, but then he's kind of ran with it a little bit, and he's put some new additions, kind of finishing touches, some tweaks, some of his own little I don't know, his own flair has been added to it. Yeah, I wanted to talk about some of the things we didn't get a chance to discuss in that first kind of interview slash deck tech. Maybe go over some of the lines, but more than anything, I wanted to get into some Goldfishing and starting hands, like a mulligan guide or some. So you can see how the deck plays out. I think it's really impressive. It's very, very consistent, reasonably fast, pretty resilient, and it's full of just powerful cards, especially at this $100 price point. So we are up to $101.10. Can't have that. Update to cheapest, and where are we at? Okay, so you're gonna have to take out a basic land or something. We're at $100.48. Close enough, right? If you really, I mean, you could always just literally pull something for a basic and get there. In fact, do we have anything in the considering board that might be cheaper? Yeah, you could take out one of your other reanimation effects for a Phyrexian Delver, and that would get you there. But let's look at what we have, and let's first of all talk about Protean Hulk. If you're not familiar with Protean Hulk as a win condition, that's really the draw to playing Grist in a more competitive minded pod or group or league or tournament. Grist sacrifices Protean Hulk without putting any mana into it. That's the big draw. It's got other utility. You can blow things up with it. It can mill you a little bit. And you've got lots of recursion in green, of course. In this deck, some of Ryan's additions have kind of leaned into the milling plan a little bit more. He's playing Nuclear Fallout, which can mill. He's playing Ripple, what's it called? This thing, which will mill you. And it's a nice little advantage engine. I'm honestly curious as to see just how good this ends up being. I think it's probably very good for budget. I think casual players are going to end up loving this, and I think it may even make its way into certain cEdh decks, like full power budgetless cEdh decks, but time will tell. So we've got like Reclaim and Regrowth and Eternal Witness. So that when we're milling our stuff, you know, we can regrow it. We've also got all the animation stuff. But the main kind of plan is going to be to get your Grist out, bin your Protean Hulk with a, oh, these are just freshly reprinted. Buried Alive is down to 51 cents, guys. Pick them up. So we cast Buried Alive or Unmarked Grave, or I think he's, or Final Parting, whatever. We use a an Entomb. Yeah, even Entomb makes its way into this $100 deck. We Entomb the Protean Hulk, and then we animate it with any number of reanimation spells. We've got lots of them. And we get our Protean Hulk into play, and we spend all the time and energy to bring our buddy Protean Hulk back from, well, put him in the graveyard so that we can bring him out of the graveyard, only to put him back into the graveyard, which we're going to do with our Commander Grist, because what we want is we want his Dies trigger. When Protean Hulk dies, you're able to search your library for 6 converted mana cost worth of creature spells and put them directly into play. Now there's 2 piles that we're going to use. The simplest one is going to be Disciple of the Vault, Lesser Masticore, a sack outlet like Viscera Seer, and Malira, Sylvic Outcast, this chick here. Okay, so when you have those 6 converted mana cost worth of creatures out, what you're going to do is use the Viscera Seer to sacrifice the Masticore. It's got Persist, so it's going to come back into play and get a -1/-1 counter on it. Except it's not going to, because Malira says your creatures can't get neg counters. So then the deal with persist is if a creature that has persist would die, it comes back into play with a neg 1 counter, unless it's got a neg 1 counter on it already, in which case it doesn't come back. So a persist creature re-enters the battlefield if it dies, unless it's got a -1 counter on it. And because Malira is part of our Hulk pile, Lesser Manticore cannot get -1 counters on it, which means you can sacrifice it, because it is a creature, you can sacrifice it with Viscera Seer over and over again, and because it is an artifact, it will ping the table out because of Disciple of the Vault. So that's your first game plan. The second plan is a little bit more complicated. It's really not that hard to do in practice. It's not that convoluted. It's just not intuitive. I think it's a little bit weird because you're doing what's called a double Hulk line, and because the combo itself, it's not obvious, I think, to most people that it should work, but it does work, and here's how it goes. So first of all, what would be a good reason to even have a set? Like, if we get the Hulk into play and we sacrifice it, we win the game, so who cares? Why do we want a second way to win the game? We're not going to win twice, right? And the answer to that is, well, first of all, Ryan just likes to have redundant effects. He likes to always be able to win the game. If I were running the deck, I don't know if I'd have 2 Hulk lines. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. But definitely just the guy who's taken over this deck and who has it in paper and plays it and is putting the finishing touches on it. It's just his play style. He wants to be very safe. And with Protean Hulk, I can see that, because sometimes you end up drawing your combo pieces and you don't always want them. You want them in the deck so that you can search them out. You don't want them in your hand where you have to cast them. So that's another reason. Or, something could get exiled. Somebody could cast a Swords to Plowshare on your Lesser Manticore, and you need to find another way to win the game. So our backup combo, and the backup combo actually itself has some, it's got some negatives, but it's got some positives compared to the normal combo. Well, let's talk about what the backup combo is. We're still getting Protean Hulk out, and then we're killing it with Grist. Or whatever, maybe we've already got Viscera Seer out. But we're going to get Protean Hulk's Dies trigger. And when we get Protean Hulk's Dies trigger, we're going to get Activated Sleeper, that's 3 mana. Blood Artist is 2, makes 5 mana. And Viscera Seer or Carrion Feeder is 1, that makes 6 mana. So we're going to have a Sacrifice Outlet. We're going to have Activated Sleeper. And we're going to have Blood Artist. So Activated Sleeper is going to come into the battlefield as a copy of a creature card that is in your graveyard that got there from play this turn. So Protean Hulk left the battlefield, went to the graveyard, and so when we get Activated Sleeper and put it in play, it can come into play as a copy of the Protean Hulk that's in your graveyard. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to copy the Protean Hulk. And so you're, in a weird way, you've used Protean Hulk to find Protean Hulk, but you've snuck in an extra 3 CMC worth of creatures into play in Blood Artist and Viscera Seer. Viscera Seer allowing you to do as many sacrifices as you need to. Blood Artist is the payoff for those. And so when you have this kind of faux, this fake, this fraudulent Protean Hulk in play, after you sack the Hulk, you get the 6 CMCs worth of creatures out. You're going to use the Viscera Seer to sacrifice the Activated Sleeper, which is going to give you another Protean Hulk Dies trigger. You're going to search your library for 6 CMC worth of creatures, and usually, it's always going to be Cavalier of Night and something else. Sylvan Safekeeper, I think, is usually going to be the go-to plan, because now we've got a protected win line going. So how do I explain this as simple as possible? So now we have sacrificed the Protean Hulk to get a Cavalier of Night into play. When the Cavalier of Night enters the battlefield, it's got this ability to blow things up. You may or may not worry about that. Sometimes there'll be a thing to kill, but that's not the combo part. So just ignore that for now. So when Cavalier dies, this is the important part. When Cavalier of Night dies, return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, so we're going to sacrifice the Cavalier of Night now. With what? Well, with the Viscera Seer that we found off the Hulk, right? Or the activated Sleeper Hulk. So, the Cavalier is going to go to the battlefield, and its dies trigger is going to give us a 3 CMC creature from the graveyard back into play, and that's going to be activated Sleeper. So activated Sleeper will re-enter the battlefield. This time not as a copy of Protean Hulk, this time it's going to copy the Cavalier of Night. So now our activated Sleeper is a Cavalier of Night. Now, this is where the weird rules interaction thing is. We are going to sacrifice activated Sleeper, pretending to be Cavalier of Night, and we are going to get the Cavalier of Night dies trigger, which is going to allow us to reanimate a 3 CMC creature. And this 3 CMC creature that we're going to reanimate is activated Sleeper. And so weird, right? Like we're gonna sacrifice, using Viscera Seer, we're gonna sacrifice the activated Sleeper to bring the activated Sleeper back into play. That's effectively what's happening. But really, the Cavalier of Night's ability is going to be triggering, and by the time the trigger resolves, activated Sleeper is in the graveyard, and so it's a viable legal target. It's going to re-enter, and then you're going to sacrifice it again, and it's going to re-enter. You're going to sacrifice it again. You're going to bring it back, so on and so forth. And every time that happens, you're going to be pinging the table out with Blood Artist, because remember, when you sacrificed your one of your Protean Hulks, you got activated Sleeper, Blood Artist, and Viscera Seer. Then you use the Viscera Seer to sacrifice your faker Protean Hulk, the activated Sleeper. And when you did that, you got Cavalier of Night and Sylvan Safekeeper. So now activated Sleeper's in the bin, Cavalier of Night is in play, Sylvan Safekeeper is in play. No, I'm sorry, activated Sleeper's in play. No, activated Sleeper's in the bin. This is a little complicated, sorry. So we're sacrificing the Cavalier of Night to reanimate the activated Sleeper, which is going to come into play as a copy of the Cavalier of Night. Now that activated Sleeper is in play as a copy of Cavalier of Night, we've got the Cavalier of Night in the graveyard, so activated Sleeper can be that. So we're going to use the activated Sleeper as the Cavalier of Night when we're sacrificing it, but the activated Sleeper is going to turn back into activated Sleeper when it goes into the graveyard, so we can bring it back into play because it's only a 3 CMC creature. And I hope that makes some amount of sense. And let's see how we're doing on time. Nah, not great, but okay. So I was gonna talk about some of the other kind of one-card win conditions, because that's the coolest thing about the deck, is the fact that we can use Final Parting, or Gerard's Orders, or Pattern of Rebirth. Did we end up on that? No, he must have taken that out. That's okay. We've got a number of one-card win conditions in the deck, in any case. Alright, well, let's just talk about one. Gerard's Orders. So it says you can search your library for up to 2 creature cards, reveal them, put one into your hand and the other in the graveyard. So just at a base case, this is going to be a way to bin Protean Hulk and get whatever card we want tutored to hand, right? But usually what we're going to do is we're going to bin Protean Hulk, and the creature that we're going to put in hand is going to be Body Snatcher. And Body Snatcher says when it enters the battlefield, you can discard a creature card, and when it dies, this is the important part, because usually you're going to kill it before the first line of text comes up. So when Body Snatcher enters the battlefield, exile it unless you discard a creature card. We're going to kill it before that happens. So the thing we're worried about is when Body Snatcher dies, exile it and return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That is going to be Protean Hulk. So we can get our Hulk and the thing that brings the Hulk back with Gerard's Orders. And then the Final Parting, kind of the same thing. You get the Hulk, goes into the graveyard, and then one of your reanimation effects like Wake the Dead, it goes into your hand, and then you can kill off the Hulk and do all of the things we already talked about. Let's get into some starting hands, some Goldfishing. Let's see how this bitch plays. First 7. This looks real good. We've got the animate. We've got the way to bin a thing. We've got a little bit of ramp. This is great. We'll draw for turn. We drew a combo piece, which is never fun, but at least it's one that isn't that mana intensive. So turn 1, Utopia Sprawl in a forest. Next turn, traverse the Elven Wall. Can be good. The floor is not that low, and the ceiling is extremely high. So turn 2. How much does this cost? 3, I think. Yeah. So let's just use the entomb effect here. Oops. So we're going to put the Protean Hulk in the graveyard. Close and shuffle, and we're going to go to our next turn. Alright, we drew into literal entomb. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. Is there anything more to do? I think we just have to wait until our turn 4. Bring this out, and we +1 to make a blocker. Oh, there it is. Alright, we make a blocker. And we mill a card. Alright, and yeah, I think here we just go to our turn 4. We play a land for turn, and we win the game. 1, 2, 1, 2. It's gonna be animate dead. Animate dead is gonna find Protean Hulk. Then we're going to, this should be 4, but we're gonna neg 2 this to destroy the Protean Hulk. Well, to sacrifice the Protean Hulk and blow somebody's best thing up. So that goes into the bin, and we find our combo pieces and win the game. And so, easy enough, right? We're just gonna get our Malira, our Viscera, our Disciple of the Vault, and our Lesser Masticore. Put all of those into play, and just do the loop we talked about at the beginning of the video. Okay, so that's a turn 4. Let's play again. We've got a 1-card win con here. We've got lands and we've got a 1-card win condition. I don't personally even need to see the rest of the hand. Like, good enough. But it's a little better than that even. So we've got options. Probably we're going to look to Fauna Shaman into a win, but we'll have to draw a creature card to make that happen. Let's draw for turn. We're definitely keeping this. And we will play... Oh shit, we don't have a swamp. Good thing we've got this Utopia Sprawl. We're going to put Utopia Sprawl on our forest, naming black. We're going to go to our turn 2. And we're going to go 1, 2. So maybe we'd need to use interaction, maybe we wouldn't, right? We have Tragic Slip, so if there's something little that we need to get rid of, we'd do that. Otherwise, 1, 2, 3, we could either put the Grist out, or I think probably we just play Fauna Shaman and hope to draw a creature. And we do, in fact, draw a creature. Alright. Boy, it sucks about the lack of forest. So we're on turn 3. We're going to tap 1 and this to sacrifice the Manglehorn to search our library for a Protean Hulk and put it in hand. And this is our turn 3, so let's go to turn 4. Okay. Now, it depends on how cute we want to get, right? Probably the simplest thing to do is going to be this. To discard a creature card and search our library for any creature card. The creature card could be, so this is where it gets a little bit interesting. What creature card do we want? Because here's the things I'm thinking of. We could get Phyrexian we could get the Body Snatcher. We could cast the Body Snatcher, and we could bring the Protean Hulk back out that way, or we could just cast the Persist and bring it back that way. So we just discarded this. What creature do we get? We could get a creature for protection. We could get a Viscera Seer if we had fucking black mana. So yeah, literally that's what we'd do, is we'd get Viscera Seer, and we'd tap this for black. If this were any other of our dual lands or a swamp, or if any of these lands were swamps and this was turned on, then we'd get Viscera Seer. We'd drop the Viscera Seer. We'd tap black and a colorless to cast Persist and bring the Hulk back and sack it with the Viscera Seer and win the game that way. But since our deck's being a little bitch and not giving us any black mana, we're going to have to take the scenic route, I'm afraid. So then maybe the creature we want to grab is going to be a piece for protection. It could either be Sylvan Safekeeper, or it could be a, yeah, let's get, I can't think of the thing's name, the thing that, Destiny Spinner. Could do this. Alright, and then we can do this 1, 2, green, and 1, 2 for a Persist. Alright, and now, as long as nobody wins the game before it's our next turn, we got there. Because on our next turn we've got protection, we've got our sack outlet waiting for us in the command zone, we've got even a piece of interaction if somebody tries to mess with our Protean Hulk or part of our line. We've got things. First of all, we've got a little protection here. Second, we've got a little interaction. We've got our sacrifice outlet. So yeah, we just sacrifice the Hulk, win the game. Let's do one more. We've got the Entomb effect, and we've got a tutor that will get us to a reanimate effect. This isn't a real fast hand, but I do think it's the kind of hand you ought to generally keep. Okay, let's go turn 1. Fintorn Elf. Next turn. Let's just assume somebody's got black. There's a lot of black in a lot of these pods. 1 wild growth onto this. 1, 2, and now we can play the Fauna Shaman. I don't even know if we may not even have wanted to take that line. In fact, we probably, yeah, probably that's not what we want to do. That probably puts us behind a turn. Instead, we probably just go 1, 2, 3. We had to tap this to cast the wild growth, I believe. So 1, 2, 3, and we transmute, and we find Persist. And then we go to our next turn. There's one of our 1-card win cons, but I think we've already, oh, we don't have black. So this is something, yeah, maybe I did screw us a little bit, because we needed to do maybe Talisman. I mean, look, this is only turn 3. We're playing a $100 deck. We can only be so frustrated by this, but we do need to get more black mana in play. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cast the Violent Tumor, and the Violent Tumor, when it enters the battlefield, puts a thing into the graveyard. We're going to grab the Protean Hulk. And we're going to go to our next turn. And we are going to win the game. So we've got our Grist, 2, 3, Grist, and Persist. Protean Hulk, we're going to neg to our Grist to sacrifice the Hulk and win the game. And if that gets stopped somehow, we've got a Fauna Shaman, we've got another tutor, so we're in a good spot here. We've got some fodder to start blowing shit up with our Grist, and I think maybe we'll just do one more. No, you know what? Let's do a review. I'm gonna go back over the deck and just see if we were running into just nasty variants or if there might be some actual problems. I mean, we're consistently winning the game on turn 4 with a deck that has tons of interaction. It's going to be able to slow our opponents down. There's really just nothing else for us to draw but wins or ways to stop other people from winning, and sometimes that comes in the form of the same card or cards. But the black mana struck me as a bit of a problem. No, it's just a coincidence. We just got a little bit unlucky. If there are any other budget black mana sources, or I mean budget dual lands we might want to look at. Increasing the number, the density. Looks like we've got all the good ones that aren't expensive. We've got the Snarl. Do we have the Chuck land? Yep. Okay. Nope. That's about it. We've got the Arcane Signet, the Talisman. Maybe just for fixing reasons, I probably talked him off of the 2 mana, the Signet. But maybe that's a consideration. In fact, let's put it into our considering board. Not really for ramp so much. The dorks are better for ramp. But because I found the black mana was a little bit touchy. The deck is a little bit more pip hungry than I realized. We definitely need pips. What was I putting in? Signet. Alright, so hopefully you enjoyed and learned and explored your Golgari self. Look at all the stuff that we've got here. There's been so many reprints of just super powerhouse cards that we can fit like in specifically Golgari. Really for specifically Golgari Hulk lately. We just got into like we're in a $100 deck, $100.48, and we get to play with Entomb. Imp's Mischief was like $20 before this reprint. Assassin's Trophy, Abrupt Decay, some new cards that are cool. Necromancy's reasonably priced now. I think Animate Dead's coming off of a reprint. Just so all of the things. The only tiny little thing is the mana base. I think what do I have in the considering board here? Yeah, that's $5. Me could run it or not. It's $6.25. I looked at it earlier today. It was $5. All right. Well, Noxious Revival probably is off the list. Toxic Deluge, only $3.65. I might look to slot that in somehow. Phyrexian Delver might be just a better version of Body Snatcher. There's pros and cons. Body Snatcher's only 4 mana. Body Snatcher allows you to discard a card. If you end up drawing one of your pieces, you can use the Body Snatcher to discard it. No, I like the deck the way it is. Hopefully we get some less expensive dual lands, or maybe we might want to just play more land. God, I don't know. I think it was variance. 32 lands is plenty. We've got all the dorks. We've got all the rocks. But yeah, I think the deck is super cool, super fun to play, super solid, powerful. I think that's all I've got for you today, my nerd homies. So until next we meet, may the force be with you. May peace be with you, and also with you. Word to your collective mothers, or word to your fathers, word to your mothers and your fathers, and word to your father's mothers and your mother's fathers. East side till I die, and namaste, homies.